everybody. Happy New Year to you all. Welcome to the very first news agenda of the year with me, Fleet Street Fox. And today I'm joined by the Mirror's Showbiz editor features, Jessica Bolton. Morning, Jess.
Good morning, Susie, and Happy New Year, everybody. Lovely to be back.
So this is the People's Paper Review, so get into the comments, ask us your questions. We'll do our best to answer them for you. If you're feeling like a stale sausage roll consisting mostly of indeterminate meat products surrounded by pastry, please know you are not alone. That's how I felt for about 2 weeks now. Those of you listening later on podcast, it is going to have to burn your calories off by navigating all those diet and exercise adverts in your feeds. So what have we got for you today? Well, the Mirror has splashed on the big freeze as parts of Britain deal with snow, ice and temperatures of minus 11 degrees C. Down here in Kent, we're just flooded out, but it's pretty bad for some people. There is more bad weather on the way, everyone. So try to keep warm and dry if you can. Now, here's a thought that'll keep you warm. Certainly makes me steam. Today is the day by which the average FTSE 100 boss has raked in the equivalent of their average worker's entire annual salary. Jess, it's only January the 6th. How is it possible when the average salary is higher than ever before?
I know it is one of these depressing stories, and it's something that each year we learn about this at the point of which the CEOs will earn the annual salary. And it is the most depressing thing, but it's also a good reminder of the inequality out there. This is so it takes 3 days for some of these top CEOs to earn the equivalent.
Say that again.
Takes how many days? 3 working days, well, 2.5 working days for some of these CEOs to earn the equivalent of what their workers do in an entire year. And they're not saying that their workers are particularly badly paid either. It's just that they earn so much. I mean, Pascal Soiree from AstraZeneca is on 16.9 million a year. The first woman in that list comes in as number 5 on the top CEOs is Emma Walmsley from GSK. She earns 12.7 million a year. So to be honest, when you're earning that much money, I don't think you start work on January the 2nd like the rest of us. I think they probably start work next week sometime. So they probably haven't earned it yet.
I think they're still in the Caribbean.
I think they probably are. So now I did a little bit of maths, and I've got an even more depressing fact for everybody out there, because we're going to be talking about Elon Musk later.
Right.
That's how long it takes Elon Musk to earn the UK average salary.
Minutes? Hours?
Indeed, it is. In fact, he will have earned, had he started work on January the 2nd, he would have earned the average UK salary by 9:01 and 5 seconds.
You're joking.
Nope.
1 minute, 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's in 1 minute, 5 seconds. He would have earned the average UK salary, which now stands at 37,400, which is, a sizable amount. And a lot of people earn a lot less than that. So that's a happy thought for everybody today.
Yeah. Now, Paul says, is it not time to pull the plug on X in the UK and take back control? We've heard that from someone before, Paul. We'll get on to X and Musk later on. You're a bit ahead of time. But £37,400 is the average salary. Now, about a decade ago, it was about 24 grand.
It was.
And actually, I can remember hearing the average salary and thinking, well, that's a bit less than I earn. That's nice. A bit less, not much, a bit less than what I earn. And now I'm hearing the average salary and going, well, that's worryingly actually quite big. How is it average to have such a high? 37 grand is still a lot of money, isn't it?
It's a lot of money. And workers' wages have gone up by an average of 7% in the last year, which, there's somebody that's getting big pay rises that's skewing that figure, I think, because
it's got to be skewed by the financial sector or something, because lots of people are not getting 7% pay rises. They have not had 7% pay rises. Millions of people in this country employed by the public sector have had to fight for a couple of percent here and there. Richard says, is this because shareholders and fellow board members are too scared to not call the bluff of these CEOs? I'll tell you how this will happen, Richard. Now, the reason that I wanted to talk about this story is that it might not get much mention in the rest of your news feeds elsewhere today. All right, it's not the biggest story. It's going to get a lot of attention, but it is what is feeding a lot of the news that you are hearing about and going to hear about the rest of this year. And I want you to remember it as 2025 pans out. Higher average wages, 37 grand a year, is why people from struggling countries want to come here to work. That's why they think, oh, that sounds like there's a lot of money flown about over there. But that in turn feeds the higher cost of living, more charges for the basics of life, more problems with housing and so on. That in turn feeds the profits of big companies. You know, if you can charge more for stuff, you get more profits because unless your costs happen to go up as well. And that means the bosses and the boards get bigger pay packages because their profits go up, right? And that's always part of the deal. If our profits rise this much, you will get X much. And so it becomes this perpetuating circle. And when it comes to the point that the average CEO is earning 113 times what their workers do, and it takes just 3 days, 2.5 days of labour to take home what others have to work all year for, it also feeds resentment, doesn't it, Jess? You know, this of them and us, which makes the voting public ripe for exploitation about something, whatever they're vulnerable to. Okay, so dividing us, believing it's all the fault of immigrants or the minimum wage increase, whatever bugbear you are vulnerable to believing or already half think that maybe this is due to it, there's a soft spot there which politicians can poke and go, well, this is the problem, vote for me, this is the problem. And it's actually this cycle, which is so hard.
Cycle that we can't get. It's a sad cycle of, it's a sad cycle that there's no way of escaping it. I don't think, Susie. We're but it's unfortunate for the majority of us don't get to be one of these fat cats, and the few that do, the 1% that are up there. It is a very there's so much inequality. Sometimes it's best not to think about it because I think it would drive us insane to know that like our bosses had earned this much in 3 days. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm about to go and see what the Reach PLC boss has earned in the first few days. But how do you think, everybody? Do you think this is a sign of a successful economy? That would be the argument, all right? That this is a sign of healthy businesses remunerating their bosses for doing well and making more profits, which in turn benefits everybody else. That is why the average wage has increased from 24 grand to 37. That would be the argument. It has trickled down, they would say. Has it trickled down to you? Does trickle-down economics actually work? When what's trickling down is so little compared to what's still up there, is this really a sensible, healthy way for the British economy to carry on? Get into the comments and let us know. I suppose, Jess, the question is, where does all this inequality take us? And can it be corrected? What could Keir Starmer do? Because it's one of the things that are going to feed the resentment and the problems with his government is this kind of inequality. And so what kind of country do we end up being in the end?
I think one of the big things here is you're talking about the sort of trickle-down effect of people earning. They earn more because of this sort of trickle-down effect. But the point you made earlier, obviously when people earn more, if the cost of living goes up, overall, you're not better off. So when you look at sort of percentage-wise of what you earn compared to what you need to spend, if that figure hasn't changed, it doesn't really matter how much more your money's gone up, because if you're having to spend more for the basic costs, then that sort of balance there remains the same. So you remain at the same kind of level of income, or your level of your sort of not poverty level, your sort of your level of income remains exactly the same, what you can afford. So it's a very interesting point, that. And I think when politicians talk about the sort of trickle down effect, and they talk about raising sort of basic wage and stuff like this, and it all comes, people are earning more, etc. They leave out that, very salient point there, that if it costs more to live, it doesn't matter that you've earned more, because the relationship between the two factors is still the same ratio.
Exactly.
So that's a very interesting.
The CEOs don't earn the money; the workers make the money for them. Is one of the suggestions. Well, it's rather than trickle down. What you've got is lots of people working very hard to earn effectively, in real terms, what they need to get by, and what they needed to get by last year as well. But all that money sort of gets pushed up. And that's how it becomes more unequal. So what does Keir Starmer do? Does he either, tell me what you think, everybody, okay? What are your solutions for Keir Starmer fixing this? Does he tax all these people? Because that's going to cause them some problems. Does he restrict how much, does he regulate or restrict how much CEOs can earn? There has been talk about, limiting CEOs to earning 50 or 100 times what their average worker earns so that they can't get these massive packages. Does the economy self-correct, with some kind of massive bubble and burst, which will hurt the average worker most? Is that what's going to happen? Or do we just leave it and we just have this country where the sort of world where the rich get richer and the poor keep bubbling along?
It's capitalism. That's that is the problem, and that is the system that we work to. What do you do? Where is the line? Why aren't some of these big corporations getting charged a lot more tax? You charge some of them the same tax that you charge some small independent business. If they had to pay at the same rate, if they didn't have all sorts of different tax reasons and tax breaks and money put in different places, then we'd be laughing. Like, can you imagine the sort of sweetheart tax deals that you hear to some of the biggest companies, because we need to have them here? It's all it's a difficult balance. I'm not the person to sort out the UK's economy with the figures at hand, but the balance between things is so tentative. And I think one of the interesting things from this story is they're talking about how there might be a rise in union membership again. It had fallen quite a lot, but they feel that there will be a big rise in union membership coming up. That's one of the factors that came out of that story this morning.
Well, speaking of taxes and companies that perhaps don't get taxed too much, I would just like to say we did talk about Twitter earlier on, didn't we? On X. Twitter, has a UK revenue of about £196 million. The last amount of tax that it paid was 950 grand. Corporation tax.
Now that seems a little bit
what deal? But it's when you have an international global company, and not just Twitter, lots of them do this, you can put all your debts over here and all your profits over there and get taxed in the place that is best to be taxed in, rather than the place that perhaps you earned all that revenue in the first place.
Which is why you see so many companies that are based in rather strange locations.
Yes. Based in the third shoebox on a British Virgin Islands or something. So we have this situation with gross inequality, but speaking of where all this leaves us and taxation and everything else, I just want to move on to, it's a very typical story that we hear this time of year. There are people who are totally unscrupulous, who seek to seduce the vulnerable and the run up to Christmas, mainly because they want someone to hold hands with on New Year's Eve. And then they're not seen for dust come New Year's Day. There are people out there, I'm sure, who have fallen victim to this kind of festive seduction. It's not very nice to be on the end of it, especially if, one person thinks, this is it. I found the one. Next year's going to be amazing. Someone who just wants you for the Christmas season, they woo you, they get you to commit totally to them. And then as soon as the ball drops, New Year's Eve, that's it. I'm sorry to tell you that tale of Yuletide heartbreak has played out, as it always does, this year for Nigel Farage, the leader of the Reform Party, who in December last time we were on the news agenda, in fact, was being wooed by the world's richest man. Oh my God, telling everyone that he was his hero and thinking that 2025 was going to change everything in his favour. Jess, can you take us through this tale of celebrity heartbreak? It's very showbiz. It's very much your wheelhouse. What's happened?
Yes, it's terribly sad for poor old Farage. He's had his heart broken. No,
he's at home with a bucket of ice cream right now.
A bucket of ice cream, like Bridget Jones tonight, singing all by myself. That is the future for Nigel Farage. Ice cream and Chaka Khan. We're so upset. Anyway, in all seriousness, Musk has been wooing him, like you say. He has been bigging up Farage in the same way that he's been backing Trump in the States. And obviously, as we know, Farage has tried to sort of wheedle himself in there with Trump. He sort of spent more time over in the US, it seems, than in his constituency of Clacton, which I know well, by the way. I grew up around there. So Farage had, he sort of thought he was onto a lucky streak. He was probably planning the next SpaceX launch pad from down Clacton Way. But Elon Musk had other ideas. So Farage calls him cool and says that Elon's his hero as well. An hour later, ouch, Elon goes on X, Twitter, and says the Reform Party needs a new leader. Nigel Farage doesn't have what it takes. And that is a breakup text if ever there was one. I mean, I've seen some savage celebrity splits, but that
have you ever seen anyone dumped like that on Twitter?
I have not seen anyone dumped like that on Twitter. And so for the fact that he's done it, ouch. And then he doubled down. He had suggested someone to replace Nigel Farage, which is he's backing Rupert Lowe, who's another one of the Reform MPs. He thinks that he's got what it takes. Now, this has all come about, this sort of highly publicized spat, which is the sort of thing that you do expect from random sort of C-list celebs that are having their relationship woes play out over social media.
Are any of these people related to Tommy Fury? Because that seems to be like one of the connections usually.
Normally, but it's actually a different Tommy that this all relates to, because one of the reasons why this has all come about is because they're arguing about Tommy Robinson. Now, for anyone that hasn't heard of Tommy Robinson, he is not the particularly nice character who's been at the front of all the sort of I'm going to say right wing, extreme right wing.
I think you can say nationalist.
It's activities. He's
football hooligan to
ahead of that. For that, he is so right of Farage that even Farage doesn't like him. So that's quite, that is quite an impressive.
That's basically the problem in this relationship, isn't it? That Trump thinks, got mixed up there. Farage thinks he's found his new best friend and his new money man, the world's richest man in front of him there, Elon Musk. And then Musk backs Farage, has dinner with him. There's talk of £100 million donation, which would totally change the reforms' impact on British politics, would make it so much likely they could have a really good ground game and go into the next election, perhaps get hundreds of MPs from the completely ignoring the fact that all their MP candidates are quite usually bonkers. And there's something quite wrong with them. And saying, no, with more money, that would all get fixed by itself. Like everyone who thinks they can start going out with a rich guy, you think, now this will solve all my problems. No, you've still got the same problems.
Because what happened is, so they had different views on Tommy Robinson. Now, Farage has actually come out better out of this situation. Now, Tommy Robinson's currently in jail serving 12 months for contempt of court. Now, if people have followed his story, he's been in and out of different sort of legal things for many years. There's all sorts of different stuff.
He's been in and out of jail for many years for a variety of different offences.
So he is currently serving in jail for contempt of court on one of the many things that he's had before. Now, Elon Musk is been calling for him to be freed, which I don't really quite understand where Elon Musk is coming from, because he does seem to be saying everything possible that you would say if you were a Bond villain. Because, really, Tommy Robinson to be freed doesn't seem to be a hill you really want to die on. But when you're the world's richest man, I guess you don't really mind.
I think you probably don't pay much attention to the minutiae
of
the reason why Tommy Robinson is in jail, which is that he's broken the law, that he's done it with a video which is not telling the truth. He's been told to stop producing this video because it's a lie. Elon Musk goes, well, now this is a freedom of speech issue. You must release him. Why are they shutting him up? And the answer to that question is why they're shutting him up is because he's talking rubbish, and it's bad rubbish that could lead people to being killed. So stop doing it. Now, Farage previously has distanced himself from Tommy Robinson. Real name Stephen Yaxley Lennon. He said, I don't want you in UKIP. You're banned because you're so racist. You're so nationalist. You make us look bad. And the fact that Reform and UKIP before that had some brown supporters was the thing that made it look less racist. Now, if they get Tommy Robinson on board, you're going to lose that aspect of your branding, aren't you? So last time I heard this, right, Elon Musk had said, why isn't Tommy Robinson freed? He would be great and he should join.
And Nigel said,
and Nigel said, no. And last I heard, one of Nigel's friends was briefing the newspapers that they'd had a little word with Donald Trump, who was a friend with Elon, to say, tell him to stop saying that. It's quite embarrassing. And then Elon's come out and gone, well, Nigel's the problem then. And
no one tells me what to say. It's exactly what he's done.
I'm not henpecked. I'm not under anyone's thumb. And there we go. The whole relationship's gone.
And Nigel's tried to give a bit of a run for his money, but I mean, because he's come back out with, I never sell out my principles.
Unless it's Elon Musk.
Which is, well, no, this is what he says. This is Nigel Farage's defense to why he is now not going to back down over Tommy Robinson being freed to satisfy Elon Musk. He says, I never sell out my principles. The problem is that obviously with Nigel Farage, some may argue that his principles in the first place aren't in the best place after we've in this Brexit mess, because it has been 5 years of Brexit, Susie. So it's all quite timely, this. Obviously, that was his sort of
but
one
also,
of his babies.
Nigel, he did sell out his principles, because Nigel was saying a few months ago in the run-up to the US election that Labour workers shouldn't be working with the Democrats in the US election to help get out the vote and everything else, knock on doors, because that was interference in a foreign interference in an election. It wasn't acceptable. He backed Donald Trump on that. And then when Elon Musk, who is a South African by birth and a Texan by residency, wants to support a British political party, which can only be to influence politics in a foreign country, he goes, well, that's fine. I've got no problem with that at all. So he does sell out his principles whenever it suits him. And if Elon Musk is waving his checkbook around, of course, it looks like Elon Musk has withdrawn his checkbook. And so suddenly he's saying, well, it's fine. I don't care anyway. I didn't really like him.
And before Valentine's Day as well, there's going to be no presents, nothing coming to Clacton now.
January is just going to be so bad in the Farage household, isn't it? So it turns out that a man with umpteen businesses who spends half his life talking tripe on Twitter is a bit of a butterfly and can't be relied upon. In fact, he already had 12 children by 4 women. Should have rung some alarm bells, Nigel, if you're paying attention. And what do you think, everybody? Is this what you were expecting? Do you think Elon actually means this? Do you think he's going to come back and get the checkbook out? He can be quite unpredictable because he's a bit of a butterfly. Jess, are you surprised that Musk couldn't be faithful?
He is the world's richest man, and should he want to take a libel case against me, I don't think I could compete. So I don't think I've got something to say on that one. I mean, we sort of all laugh at, he's got so many children by different people. Obviously, he's got the latest 3 by Grimes. And they've all got crazy names, and he's doing all these crazy things. And at first, I mean, there was a lot of interest in Musk a few years ago. He was putting the car in space, and he was doing all the SpaceX stuff. And it was all sort of like, here's this eccentric billionaire who's doing all these wonderful things. But it seems to have turned in the last year or so that we're seeing, this interference in or this interest in, the politics, the supporting of Trump, becoming increasingly vocal about sort of this right-wing issues. Obviously, he's fallen out with one of his own children over his views, over his transgender.
One of his children.
So he's fallen out with them already. So that's all, he just seems to have become very much more open about who the things that he believes in. And personally, the sort of look at what Musk has done kind of sort of thing is actually starting to get a little bit frightening. This is a man who has the potential to do anything because he has so much money. As we said, he earns what we earn in 1 minute, each year. So he's looking at chips to go in your brain. He's looking at new methods of transport. He's, got Tesla, which is, everybody's got those over there. The reach he has, the impact, the stuff that he's been doing with AI, even though he talks about and out against AI sometimes, but he's also been involved in AI. All of this sort of reach is like the power that one man can have is something I think is like people do not talk about this enough. And it comes back to the issue of the CEOs. Like, how do you control the people that have the money. At the end of the day, money
saying at the top of the show about regulating Twitter or blocking it as they have done in some other countries. Steve said it's absolutely hilarious what's happened to Farage. Musk letting him know that when it comes to the title of Chief Trump Crevice Licker, blah, blah, blah. Tony on Twitter says, to be honest, I'm getting rather tired of the amount of coverage in the media this man gets. I think along with the billionaire in the US, both of them really, it seems unless they speak, no attention is given to anything. Case in point is... No, he goes on about grooming gangs there, which we've covered an awful lot in the media, despite what you say, Steve. Steve said, if we ever needed proof that the special relationship is and has only been ever in the mind of British politicians, Musk just confirmed it. I don't think Musk considers himself part of the American-British special relationship. But, we've got this situation where, Musk is the world's richest man. He is about to be in charge effectively of every US government contract, many of which, of course, benefit him. And he is totally unelected. He is totally subject to almost next to no scrutiny in the American system. He's plainly, as like many people who were bullied as children at school, he just wants to make new friends all the time and to win power and influence and to make the bad people that he doesn't like anymore go away. He's been anti-apartheid in the past. He's been Democrat supporting in the past. He's now seems to be supporting the far right in Germany and here as well. He's all over the place. Jess, can you think of any billionaires who have died happy with a fulfilling family life, who didn't go bust at some point, who didn't publicly implode or otherwise come to a sticky end? Because I can't think of very many.
I can't think of very many either, I must admit, but I suppose probably the happiest ones are the ones that stay completely out of the limelight, the ones that go under the radar, the type of billionaires, like they say, that don't look like billionaires. They dress and act normal because they say, and that's why they have, got to where they are. But yeah, I mean, in terms of, you've seen some disaster stories before, and like you say, this is it. He's flip-flopped across the sort of political spectrum over the years. I mean, he had a lot of supporters at one time because he was talking about anti-apartheid. He was talking on the sort of left side of things, and then it's like flip a switch, and now he's sort of so powerful to be helping this sort of right movement. It's just is quite terrifying. And
he's kind of seen his moment in a way, because obviously with Trump being re-elected now, he's got an ability to go and sort of cut some of the regulation that has caused him some problems with SpaceX in the regulatory system in the US without any scrutiny, without having to be elected first. And as far as the UK and his problem with Keir Starmer is concerned, it's all linked to the Online Safety Act, which as of March will be fining him up to 10% of his global turnover if he doesn't remove illegal content from Twitter. Which is why he's got a big problem with Britain and the government and freedom of speech and all the rest of it. He doesn't understand what's illegal in this country and what's not illegal elsewhere, and the fact that he can't do some of this stuff. So we'll have to see how it all pans out. I suspect that Elon has got a finite period of time before he goes completely bonkers. But we'll have to see how it goes. In the meantime, thoughts and prayers, Nigel.
I think he's a lovely man, I'd like to say, for the record. Please don't sue me, Elon.
I recommend Ben and Jerry's cookie dough, and frankly, some lots of music.
What for Farage?
For Farage, best breakup song. There's one of an old country album called I can't remember it now. You Really Had Me Going. That's a good one. Try that and just listen to it a lot. And I hope that you feel a bit better soon, feel stronger in time for Valentine's. Go get him, Nigel. Right, we have managed to find some good news in the world for you, and here it is. Now, 3 years ago, Bianca Pereira was dealing with the fact she had a very short time left to live. She had been diagnosed at the age of 29 with stage 4 bowel cancer that had metastasized to her liver. She was informed it was next to untreatable. Now, she submitted to a program of medication and chemotherapy before doctors cut out the bowel tumor. Then, mercifully, she was free of the bowel cancer, but it was still in her liver, and they had to do something about it. Last year, they were able to give her a full liver transplant, the first time that had been done for someone with who had started with such an advanced form of bowel cancer. And 1 year on from that surgery, as you can see from the pictures there, she is happy and healthy and just been told she is finally completely cancer-free. Jess, is this proof that if you can just hang on long enough, whatever's wrong with the world may go right in the end?
Well, it's a very nice thought, Susie, so I'm not going to disagree. But I mean, it's a lovely story for Bianca, and I'm sure there's millions of people out there who, wish her well from that. I mean, obviously, it's not always a happy ending for everyone. Hanging on doesn't always give you the answer, but this is a nice, happy story. And yes, sometimes it is a good ending.
Yeah, it really needs just hanging on, but with a little bit of intervention at the right time, I think, is the clue here. Whether it's to do with, CEO pay or getting too close to Elon Musk, is probably something that I hope future other political leaders will take a lesson from what's happened to poor old Nigel and try to keep their hearts and their egos safe from being toyed with, frankly, by Elon Musk. It's just not fair, is it? Men shouldn't be able to behave that way to people. Right. Thank you very much, Jess, for taking us through all that. Thank you, everyone, for taking part. We will see you again on Wednesday for another edition of the News Agenda, because now we're back and firing in all cylinders. And I'm sure we'll be talking about some of the other stuff that's in the news towards the end of the week, and maybe not even Elon Musk, but I suspect, I'm afraid, despite what some of our viewers think, we're going to have to be talking about him and Nigel and Trump quite a bit more this year. Thanks, everyone, for taking part. We will see you all again on Wednesday. Till then, stay safe, take care. Tatty, bye.
Bye.